Hello, everyone. It is Wednesday, the 29th of May, 2024, and I've been slacking on the videos. I've been overwhelmingly busy at my home and other stuff, but spring season, I'm in a log cabin. I'm on 5 acres. I have gardens, greenhouse, and other, and then just like a lot of stuff to do to spring and summarize my place before travel. Helen Grus, I've been talking about this case now for a couple of years. She was suspended on the 29th of January 2022, the first weekend of the Freedom Convoy, and someone who I've known since 2016, 2017, I believe. In fact, I think, 2016. Anyways, for a long time, I've worked with her on higher level contracts, and she is someone that is a professional. I had her hired also as one of the key role players that I would use, and she has over 20 years service with Ottawa Police Services. She was part of the sexual assault child abuse unit for over 7 years before the COVID vaccine rollout. There's not a whole lot I can say more than that regarding the situation surrounding her case, because I'm back on YouTube on my old account. So my most recent YouTube account was deleted on me, and so I was able to get up one of my older accounts, and which I'm using now, but it doesn't have like a year and a half's worth of videos and interviews with Mark Sargent and Dave Weiss and Jaron. And so it is what it is. I do have these videos on StreamYard, and I do have them on Rumble. And so for anyone that is watching this on YouTube, this is an older account that I had to reuse for the last month, but all my videos for the last year and a half, groundbreaking stuff, covering so many different things: January 6th, the Freedom Convoy, Israel, Palestine, Ukraine, Russia, COVID, True Earth, you name it. You're not going to get it anywhere else, especially Canadian content. So anyway, I digress. She's still in the courts. I went and saw the court case last summer when the open court cases were when they first started, a small courtroom in Huntmar, and it was closed to the for online viewing, which does not happen. So again, this is just to show you even more how they were trying to bury this case. But there was a good video by Stanton Cree 420. I'm not surprised, and so of course I really want to share this with everyone. And Stanton Cree 420. And then I'm going to go on and do another video after this. So this is 211 Huntmar. I've been there. And there are law enforcement from Huntmar that I've also had to file third-party complaints against, and someone that was it is actually the landlord of my. Anyway, I won't even say how connected people at Huntmar were to myself and Helen, who were I would say terrorizing us is a good word to say, and yeah, we're still in the courts fighting corrupted law enforcement. Not even shitting you, and all from Huntmar. I can't even make this up. But yeah, this is just to show you how involved. Anyway, and there's other people I can't even name that were also law enforcement from Huntmar that were not vaccinated, and or people that were opposing the mandates, especially because they were working with SACA as well, or covert law enforcement and stuff like that, and they were getting the actual data. Not from like the health experts that have like zero experience in any form of medical field. Okay, we're getting a lot of that, right? These alleged experts, and you're going to hear about Chris Renwick too, and see how much experience he has as law enforcement. This is Helen's lawyer. This is Helen right here. A fucking hero. I'm sorry for swearing, and went through the ringer. Still is going through the ringer. She's on trial this week, and you'll see why. This guy is from Alberta. He flew in, and the staff flew in because I couldn't find any lawyers to represent us from the Ontario region, province of Ontario, especially Ottawa. I have emailed and I've shown the record of this. Like, I've emailed and called just to show the call logs and the email logs, at least 7 different lawyer firms in Ottawa to try to represent myself, and Helen did as well, and others, and because these people are on the wrong side of history and humanity, and these people are the ones that ran out and got boosted. I mean, no offense in that, They want to double down on this. Or there's people that have shares and stocks in the pharmaceutical industrial complex, still working in cabinet, even, by the way, even at that level, and mayoral levels, district level, leadership levels. Yeah, made a lot of money, shares and stocks.
Detective Helen Grus of the Ottawa Police will be telling her story.
That's another one of our lawyer. So nice. So again, like I was there last year, there's only room for like 15 people, 20 people max inside the room. So I'm going to give my seat up for journalists, especially if they're going to be on the right side of humanity, like Rebel News and stuff like that, and actually accurately report this case. And I still have to talk with Rebel News. Oh my goodness. Yeah, regarding this.
Story to the
Anyway.
world for the first time at a police
I'm gonna rewind
disciplinary
this.
first time at a police disciplinary trial. Detective Helen Grus
Start it
of
off.
the Ottawa Police will be telling her story to the world for the first time at a police disciplinary tribunal that's been plagued with bias, corruption, perjury, witness intimidation, and abuse of process.
This is from last year.
Helen faces the bogus charge of
because I was there.
discreditable conduct for simply doing her job as an Ottawa police detective. In January 2022, Detective Grus initiated an investigation into a possible connection between 9 sudden infant deaths and their mother's vaccination status. Mrs. Grus's evidence package included Pfizer documents that showed 31 of 32 pregnancies, followed by trial investigators, resulted in spontaneous abortion. Only one baby of 32 pregnancies survived. Within days of opening the investigation, Detective Grus was suspended for discreditable conduct for initiating an unauthorized investigation and was formally charged in July 2022. What's disturbing to learn is that in late March 2022, overwhelming evidence points to 2 police colleagues illegally providing confidential police information to CBC reporter Shamini Yorgadam, which resulted in CBC articles and broadcasts about the police investigation.
Why is she not on trial?
Of course, impacting the investigation itself. After leaking the story to CBC, Ottawa police were then faced with a 24-hour ultimatum from reporter Shamini Yorgadam to contact the parents of the deceased infants before the story broke. So it's just a giant coincidence that.
So why is she not on trial? Like Helen Grus, her reputation precedes her. She's an incredible cop, has been for over 20 years, exemplary service. And this, I don't even know what to call this person other than a coward, misinformed, a propagandist, and didn't care. This fucking woman did not care to think about the sudden infant deaths that Helen was actually trying to investigate properly, and was getting canceled and threatened and harassed and charged and all of these other, and isolated and all these other things during that first weekend of the Freedom Convoy too, ironically enough. And so this anti-Canadian, whatever you want to call, journalist, loser, I hope you get, you're not Canadian. I hope your passport gets revoked, because how many deaths of children are at your hands? This is what I mean. Like these mainstream media losers, they need to be fired already. CBC, CTV, Global News, and literally every single one of the mainstream media outlets, like they need to be fired. We need new independent media. We're getting it anyways. Like these people are done. You're toast. You're done. You're fired. Or at least you're not credible anymore. You're gonna have to change your name if you're gonna do any more articles. But anyway, I hope you get investigated. I hope you are the one that gets the same treatment that Helen got. That's all I'm asking. The same treatment that Helen got, I hope you get. Actually, you know what? No, I don't. No, I don't. I take that back. That's being petty. Oh, early morning. I just got so fired up because like that woman, like I obviously know I've shared her I don't know what you'd call it. Like I've shared that girl's involvement, I would guess, in destroying Helen Grus's life, and over $100,000 in debt. She's a grandmother. You wouldn't think to look at her. Someone that's been, she's such a patriot. It's like she's even like her son's like like in hockey, like she would sing the Canadian national anthem even recently. Beautiful voice, beautiful soul, beautiful person, and getting her life destroyed by a mainstream media propagandist and a leftist at that. And again, where's the repercussions? Like, I hope she gets fired. That's all I'm asking. That would be enough if that girl got fired.
News broke. Ottawa police made a financial settlement with one of the parents. The news was then used as a propaganda tool to assist in swaying public opinion. The timing of the settlement also couldn't have been better.
Just like Justin Ling, another propagandist leftist from Vice News and CBC News, it was all around the same time during that Freedom Convoy time. That was staged and planned by people within government, like Bill Blair and Marco Meningino and Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland, and they think that we don't know this, especially after January 6th. They think that more people in Canada are not aware. Anyway,
better, given that it was one day before Detective Grus's hearing.
Let me back this up again. Sorry.
After the news broke, Ottawa police made a financial settlement with one of the parents. The news was then used as a propaganda investigation and was formally charged illegally providing confidential police information to CBC reporter Shamini Yorgdam, which resulted in CBC articles and broadcasts about the police investigation, of course impacting the investigation itself. After leaking the story to CBC, Ottawa police were then faced with a 24-hour ultimatum from reporter Shamini Yorgdam to contact the parents of the deceased infants before the story broke. So it's just a giant coincidence that after the news broke, Ottawa police made a financial settlement with one of the parents. The news was then used as a propaganda tool to assist in swaying public opinion. The timing of the settlement also couldn't have been better, given that it was one day before Detective Grus's hearing in December 2023.
So there was an incentivized financial offer for something that was not substantiated, and people that were actually victims, the parents, like in that case, absolutely victims, but were further exploited for mainstream media. And this is the disgusting thing. And it was the day before her hearing as well. And you're going to hear more why it's important. Okay, that this was a fucking hit piece on Helen that literally was so beyond reprehensible, and the impact to the parents and Canadians at large and our first responder types. This was like by people in the higher levels of government that were exploiting everyone.
The mainstream media has been very strategic in their reporting.
Of course they have.
Just enough to cover the basics, but not too much to stir the pot.
Yeah, fake news rising.
Of course, things you'll never see the mainstream media report on is the fact that the one and only parent of the 9 deceased infants Detective Grus contacted during her investigation very much appreciated her phone call.
Interesting.
Or that the grandfather of another deceased infant only had positive things to say about Detective Grus.
I shared that as well. Interesting.
Members of the Ottawa police at one point got so desperate
because parents wanted to know. It was so traumatic and shocking to lose a child under the age of 5, by the way, because that's SACA. That's a hard enough job. And she was doing that for over 7 years, and then also doing work to train the higher levels of Canadian government to respond to natural and man-made disasters internationally. So the nerve of these low-level government people and mainstream media, leftists and rightists, to paint Helen as anything beyond being a fucking hero, again, is just, to me, absurd. It's absurd. And parents want to know the truth about their kids, spoiler alert. And Helen knew that. And not something that was pushed. This all came out in the court cases. Like, she was not reaching out to contact parents like people were saying. That was a lie. Such a lie. And that's why with Shamini, like, yeah, I was a little harsh, you know what I mean? Saying fired and like never work again and get in jail and all this stuff, you know, and like getting like years in courts. Like, I know how stressful that is. So like, I wouldn't wish that on my worst nightmare or my worst enemy. Sorry. But definitely being fired.
For a smidge.
People want to know the truth about their kids, right? They want to know the truth, to get the truth out there so that these traumatic experiences don't happen to other people. If I was a parent, I would want to know why my once very healthy infant within minutes or within hours of me breastfeeding died in my hands or my arms. That's very traumatic.
Of wrongdoing.
And also for the first responders that respond to that and have to investigate those deaths, like Helen.
That they initiated a wiretap, listening in on Detective Grus and her family.
I'm going to rewind this
those
again.
Who don't know,
because they were wiretapping her. And yeah, all the same network.
They initiated a wiretap, listening in on Detective Grus and her family. For those who don't know, under the criminal code, there are two ways for a wiretap to be granted. One way is somewhat tedious, where grounds are established, affidavits are signed, etc. While the other way is via an emergency provision under Section 184.4 of the Criminal Code, meant for abduction, murder, terrorism, or hostage situations where actual lives are at stake. So, as you can all guess, after 36 hours of listening to Detective Grus, they came back with absolutely nothing. The decision maker at Detective Grus's tribunal is adjudicator Chris Renwick, retired superintendent of Ottawa Police, who, by the way, has zero legal training. The prosecutor is Ms.
Zero legal training. Yeah.
Vanessa Stewart. There are so many things unjust about the current proceedings that it would take hours to cover it all. But for those watching, here are some quick examples that indicate the fix is in. Just as Detective Grus was to testify in her own defense, her counsel, Blair Ector, announced to the tribunal that his client had received a threatening email earlier in the day. He said,
I met him. I went right up to him. I shook his hand. I said, "So thank you so much for taking on Helen's case." Literally like last year, and I gave him my contact information, and I'm like, if you need any further information, but I knew he had the same information that I was sharing because we're on the same network as Helen, like our network of what information was being disseminated. It was all medical, scientific, and government data, and so like he already had it by last year, obviously, because we put together so many different folders together with the information that this guy had no fucking idea about. Oh my God. Yeah. And the people that know him don't really have a whole lot of good things to say about him. Maybe in his older years. Okay. Because I also know people that know him from his younger years. And also people that don't have like incredible things to say about him. But anyway, I'll just leave it at that.
Said, and I quote, "It's come to my attention today that Inspector Hugh O'Toole sent an email to my client stating that she cannot rely on any Ottawa Police Service documents. That is witness tampering.
Yep.
That is intimidation.
So Hugh O'Toole being a fucking tool.
That is obstruction. This tribunal should be outraged. I am outraged."
What are you going to do? The same thing that you guys have been doing, where I had to file third-party police complaints against Huntmar, like certain people. Obviously, there's people at Huntmar that are great cops. Obviously, Helen being one of them. Other people I can't name, like a handful of people I can't name right now, but being others. But the large majority, dirty cops now in Ottawa. And that was shown, proven at the Freedom Convoy. A lot of dirty cops.
Other things of concern.
Hopefully that's changing.
Adjudicator Chris Renwick.
I'm just going to back this up.
Other things of concern is that Adjudicator Chris Renwick ruled that defense has to give all their questions for witnesses in advance. Right. Mr. Renwick also ruled that Detective Grus could not review her own handwritten notes from January 30th, 2022, the very day upon which it is alleged she engaged in misconduct by calling one of the parents. Although the prosecutor was thrown a curveball when Detective Grus's own sergeant admitted on the stand that she had every right to look into the file. I'm sure the prosecutor would love to redo that day. As far as testimonies go, all 5 defense expert witnesses were denied by adjudicator Chris Renwick. They include Dr. Eric Payne, pediatric neurology, Dr. James Thorpe, obstetrics and gynecology, Dr. Gregory Chan, family medicine, Ottawa Police Staff Peter Landluck, and lawyer Sean Buckley. On a different note, before many of the questions could even get past the second word, the prosecutor Vanessa Stewart would constantly object to the question in an effort to protect their witnesses from perjury. Mrs. Stewart also despicably compared Detective Helen Grus's calm demeanor to that of a serial rapist and murderer in this country. Speaking of Vanessa Stewart, adjudicator Chris Renwick denied defense's request to switch out prosecutor Ms. Stewart on the grounds that she is the sister-in-law of the primary prosecution witness. Yes, you heard that correctly. Evidence exists that the case against Detective Helen Grus is an engineered, politically motivated setup by persons within the Ottawa Police Services. Detective Grus has been serving her community for over 20 years as a police officer and carries an exemplary police record with glowing reviews. Mrs. Grus's commitment to catching and convicting bad guys in the sexual assault and child abuse unit is second to none. This case in particular is one of the most important cases in Canadian history, as it will define how police investigate crimes. The question then becomes, are we going to have police officers frightened, like we do in communist countries, to do their duty without thinking of the political implications? In Western police forces across Canada and the United States, police officers are encouraged to initiate any investigation they see appropriate. We allow the police to do this so that politicians can't corruptly direct police operations. Autonomy is granted in order to prevent the police from being used politically. If you're able, please come and show your support for Helen Grus at 211 Huntmar Drive, Canada, Ontario, from May 27th to the 31st, starting at 9:30 a.m.
That's Robert Krychek from Rebel News. One of the only ones actually reporting the real case.
Detective Grus is a hero who is standing up for all police officers and citizens alike. If you wish to donate to Detective Grus's legal fund, I have provided a link in the description.
Yeah. So this is during a recorded discussion with her supervisor. After hours and days and weeks and stuff like that, of fighting, being one of the only ones that would try to share this information. And she's a very professional person. She most definitely does not swear as much as I do, and for obvious reasons. We had different. Both have service. She's been Ottawa Police Services for over 20 years, as mentioned. I was an infantry officer, including in the special forces and all that stuff for 15 years, and then I incorporated. As soon as I got out, and I was working even higher level contracts internationally, and doing that since. And then during COVID, a lot of my contracts, all of them actually, for the most part, were delayed and then canceled. And then because I was not vaccinated, I was not even allowed to travel until June of 2022. And then obviously with all this stuff going on and what I was going through during that time as well, getting absolutely targeted because of what I was sharing and who I was in communication with, even within government. Again, this is when I say blue on blue, this was fucking blue on blue. And there's actually other things I want to share as well, but this is what she was like literally on a recording. I'm a police officer. I'm there to solve and help solve if somebody dies, especially an innocent little baby. I don't want more babies to die, whether it's vaccine related or not. I'm not okay with babies dying and not getting any answers. That was Detective Helen Grus during police questioning. Okay, so this is not like anything that was written or rehearsed or anything like that. This was literally during questioning, and her still being like no nonsense with this. Like, she is such a boss. Over $100,000 in court fees, so much stress, lost so many people, and there was no support last year when I went to the court hearings, which was unfortunate. I was one of the only ones like on her side of the court hearings, and then that ex RCMP sniper guy, I forget what his name is, like he was there, but again, like he's reporting it or looking just to like verify facts and stuff like that, because he knows that mainstream media lies. And then Rebel News were there. That was literally it. And so there's a lot more people now. And then people were obviously on the outside of the precinct, as you saw, people that were praying for her. And anyway, this is also important, and why they want to bury this case. I just got to switch it back over. Of course. Now you have to log in. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Epic Times, they're getting so desperate, just like the other mainstream media, that they're going to lose a lot of clientele if they keep on pushing with the ads and the pop-ups and having to like have a, anyway. Exclusive. Military leaders said dropping vaccine mandate would have weakened forces credibility. So this was posted 2 days ago. I shared this with multiple people yesterday, but I didn't do a video, so I'm going to share it here. By Noe Shatsier. The day after the federal government announced it would suspend its vaccine mandates in June 2022, military leaders were taking stock of their own related policy, with some saying making a similar announcement would impact the Canadian Armed Forces credibility. The credibility. This is Wayne Eyre, by the way. If we rescind the CDS directive, Chief of Defense Staff, so if we rescind Wayne Eyre's directive, because there was a lot of people that were, in his immediate chain of command that were suggesting that he shouldn't be doing this stuff, referencing Nuremberg and all that other stuff as well. He still wanted to push forward the credit, and he's going to peacefully resign, honorably resign in the summer, which is appalling to me, abhorrent. When Helen Grus has been in the courts for years, and this guy is, and he's going to get such a Gucci cush corporate job as soon as he releases or moves, and to me that's just like that's the systemic sexism. If you want to throw anything out there, yeah. If we rescind the CDS directive, the credibility of the institution is weakened, particularly the relationship between the strategic and tactical levels. Read minutes from a Strategic Operations Planning Group, SOPG, meeting on June 15th, 2022. The comments were attributed to CAF's Director, Military Careers Administration, DMCA. The email containing the minutes had been sent by Colonel Crystal Connerty, a director with the Strategic Joint Staff. The email was obtained through the Access to Information system. Okay, so the minutes sent by Colonel Crystal Connerty. This is the minutes of the meeting, right? So like anyone that says, like anyway, but the comments were attributed to the Director of Military Careers Administration, DMCA. Anyway, the CDS directive refers to the mandatory COVID-19 vaccination directive issued by the Chief of Defense Staff, CDS Wayne Eyre, in the fall of 2021. DMC also reportedly told the planning meeting that its staff was operating at the front lines to defend the CDS directive and was often receiving complaints and insults, including being accused of war crimes. No shit. Wayne Eyre, did you actually do any reading about World War I or World War II before you even at all in your military career? I hate saying this because like the guy had he had a good reputation for the most part before this, and he blew it. So when he was needed the most, he blew it. So that don't impress me much. The day before the CAF meeting, Liberal cabinet ministers had announced on June 14th, 2022, the suspension of the vaccine mandate for travel by, that's supposed to say plane. So Epic Times. I just had to friggin' log in and create an account and all that stuff. Like I'm not even getting, I'm not even getting good grammar and writing. Come on. And spelling and stuff like that. By plane and train public service employees and federally regulated workplaces, the CAF had imposed its own mandate. By the way, and that was the other thing too, the CAF had imposed its own mandate. I shared those Canforgens. I shared the mandate. Even at the time, it was leaked to me. It was, well, not leaked. It was sent to me by multiple different people serving that were also getting kicked out. People that were supervisors trying to help their own subordinates as well. And they were not helped by this fucking clown. The CAF had imposed its own mandate, hence the suspension by the federal government. Hence the suspension by the federal government had no impact, by the way. That's also a clear divide that needs to be investigated. The SOPG meeting minutes indicate the DMCA proposed 3 options on how to deal with the CAF mandate: maintain the status quo, suspend the mandate, and maintain the ability to re-implement later on or to rescind it entirely, which this is what should have been done. This is what it should have been done. We shouldn't rush to failure. Yeah. The irony, when you rushed a mandate in Canforgen that actually led to the failure of the Canadian Armed Forces and Canadian society as a whole. We shouldn't rush to failure, the DMC reportedly said. There are many second and third order effects that must be considered. Yeah, like side effects, like the fact that they were approved under emergency use authorization, the fact that there was the VAERS coming out from Pfizer alone in February of 2021 and then March of 2022 that showed the, I can't even talk about this stuff. I'm back on YouTube. Anyway, not that it matters. My most current account was zapped because YouTube censors people. The CAF maintained its full vaccine mandate until October 2022. So a full 4 months after the government rescinded, Wayne Eyre doubled down. Then he issued a new directive which removed COVID-19 vaccination as a condition of employment. The vaccination requirement has been kept in place for operational roles to date. So you can't deploy without it, though. So again, this is bullshit. It's just smoke and mirrors. Other records released under the Access to Information regime indicate that CAF had not conducted an operational impact assessment of its vaccination policy. That's a fact. The Department of National Defense says that 299 regular force members were expelled over vaccination refusal. By the way, over a vaccination refusal, that's on record. There's a lot of people that got released medically, which is a different, it's under a different category, and so many other things as well. So while 108 others voluntarily left and cited mandatory vaccination as a primary reason for releasing. And so there's actually more than this. Like they always underreport the impact of people that actually got kicked out. But out of a lot of these people, by the way, that's still a lot for Canada. And a lot of these people were high ranking and trying to fight it for their subordinates, turning out to be right. The troop loss over the COVID-19 period was, however, significantly higher. So they're saying it now, with the CAF suffering a net loss of 6,458 soldiers from a fiscal year 2020-21 to 2022-2023. So when we only have approximately, it's lower now, but approximately like 50,000 to 60,000 people at this point in the regular forces, and anywhere between 20 and 30,000. I don't know what the numbers are now, but in the reserve forces. That's a significant number. This is not American military numbers here or Chinese military numbers here. Like this is a Canadian. Like we have like a population of approximately 40 million now because of the mass surge of immigrants in the last 4 years, where we've gotten a couple more million people just in the last 2 years alone. Yeah, risk is quite low. An unidentified individual representing the medical branch of the CAF also provided input on the vaccine mandate during the June 15, 2022 planning meeting. Uptake of the COVID-19 vaccine was already high prior to the CDS directives, says the minutes. Since implementation, there has been only a marginal increase in uptake amongst Canadian Armed Forces members. The Directorate of Force Health Protection provided its assessment of consequences of removing the vaccine mandate. Minutes says that the risk is quite low. Given the high uptake, the risk of hospitalization for CAF members remains low, and the efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines against transmission wanes over time. There's even more than that. It's the side effects. Other records released through Access to Information provide data supporting those statements. CAF troops had a 93% vaccination rate in late August 2021. Before the implementation of the mandate, according to notes from the CAF Surgeon General for a meeting with CDS General Eyre. A chart on COVID-19 cases from the Surgeon General dated 21 June 2022 shows cases exploded in the CAF shortly after the implementation of the vaccine mandate. I even shared that even February of 2021, it shared that 4.6% of the VAERS that were actually reported just from Pfizer alone were people that contracted COVID via inoculation. YouTube doesn't like me saying that, but I'll show the facts anyways, again, because I don't give a shit. It's just one strike. And it's worth it. I'm just going to search it here. You guys can keep reading, but I'm just going to go into my very important information. Okay, let's see here. Anyway, I can give so many different options here. Anyway. The Canadian Armed Forces always bases its decisions on vaccination by considering the most up-to-date medical evidence and advice that it was such a lie. The current federal posture and the need to be operationally ready in terms of both force health and ability to act in an environment where any vaccine-preventable illness is a hazard to individuals in the mission, André-Anne Poulain said in a previous statement to the Epoch Times. So André-Anne Poulain doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. And Any vaccine preventable illness? Vaccine preventable illness. Okay. So would you mind explaining how via getting inoculated, there was actually a significant increase in COVID cases? So this is the cumulative analysis of post-authorization adverse events reports of Pfizer received up until the 28th of February, 2021. I believe the lock date was the 16th of February, but this was just a couple of months after the vaccine rolled out to first responders. So what people don't understand or realize is that even as early as December of 2020, first responders were getting the vaccine and they were getting adverse side effects because it wasn't even a vaccine. Infections and infestations, COVID-19, 4.6% of people, and by the way, out of the VAERS that were reported during February of 2021, only 3 to 5% of the actual vaccine adverse events were actually reported and actually made it in the system because there was financial incentive and ego and people that had shares in stocks and people that were getting pressured and afraid to lose their jobs. But you're a coward, right? If you are afraid to lose your job and that's why you were pushing this and injecting people, I hope you get jail. I really do. And by the way, a lot of these cases were lethal. And so there were already deaths from people that were contracting COVID via the inoculation. So I'm showing you, and also in pediatric under the age of 12 years. Yeah, and not effective in a lot of cases as well. People contracting even the flu, and they were not able to differentiate between these viruses, these sicknesses during the time either, even during even with the PCR tests. And so, yeah. So anyway, court case with Helen's ongoing. I hope that people show their support, and if they can't go there in person, I hope that people tweet or X and share information on social media, because this is how things get more mainstream or more viral. So anyway, on that note, I will leave it at that. And I'm going to do another video at some point today again, maybe right after this one, but I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.